Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is March the 23rd, 2021, and it is another episode of Remodelers on the Rise. Arguably, top 50 podcast in all of the remodeling world. I don't know how you could argue with that. Some might even say top 4. I don't know. There's going to be something a little bit different today, and I'll mention it now, and I'll mention it probably 7 other times as we go through. What would be super fun is if you're watching this live and you have you're brave, number 1, and number 2, you have a question. If you click that link that you'll see in the stream, it'll pop open a thing that says, oh, I'd like to join StreamYard. And then at the bottom of the little tool that I use, your video will pop up and I can click a button and bam, you can be a guest on today's show to ask the question. I won't bite. I'm very kind. And we'll kind of answer your questions live. So it's a bit of a call-in show if you so desire. Now, knowing that sometimes when I ask for something like that, nobody steps up to the plate, I do have an abundance of other topics that I have ready to rock and to roll. And we should jump right into that. Let me get my sound effect. All right. So please click that link if you'd like to join me live and ask a question. It'll be fun. Hopefully 1 or 2 of you do it. Otherwise, let's get into some topics. The first one is, do you have in your contract a material escalation clause? Now, I am not a lawyer, step 1. Number 2, legal speak and like details and contracts, doesn't really do it for me. Do we need to have a contract that is properly written, that protects us from knuckleheads? Yes. But sometimes I don't talk a lot about contracts, but I'm revving up and talking more and more about material escalation clauses. I don't know if you guys have heard this and gals have heard this, but materials are very volatile right now. Pricing going up, down, all over the place, a lot of up, right? And when we have a project that we signed a contract on March 2nd, 2021. And because we have a nice backlog of work, we are not actually going to start production on that job until June 2nd, 2021. That difference between contract signing in March and start of production in June and ordering materials, let's say in May or whenever, there is a lot of risk that the materials may end up costing more than what you had in your proposal and your contract in March. And what are you going to do? You're going to eat that? You're just going to take the hit on that? Or are you going to be wise and realize we are in unprecedented times? And for years and years, you may have had a material escalation clause, but the difference between what you're ordering it for versus what it was is fairly minute. 1% here, 2% here, 3% here. But nowadays, that $20,000 lumber package could turn into $27,522. That's $7,522 of gross profit that would get sucked out of your project. That's not good. It's not good. Nor is it fair to you. What needs to happen is, number 1, you need to work through and get a material escalation clause into your contract. On the Remodelers Community Facebook page, I asked for anybody who had some of those. I shared an example, and then we had 6, 7, 8 people who shared excellent examples. Take one, make it your own, run it by your lawyer, make sure it feels and looks solid, and get that into your contract. Step 1. Step number 2 is that you need to be very deliberate and very clear when you're meeting and presenting detailed proposals or getting ready towards contract signing with your clients. And when you get to that part of your contract that's about material escalation, you may have a pen in your hand. You need to set that pen down. You need to push yourself back from your chair a little bit and say, all right, we got to talk about something here. I've been in business for 20 years as a remodeler, and very rarely have I ever had to charge my client more for materials than what they're signing on the contract. But this last year, we have been going through as an industry pretty unprecedented times where material prices have gone up and up, down, all over the place, mostly up. And we've talked about this a little bit as we have met and gone through design and development. But we're signing this contract today. And like we talked about, we're not starting this project until 4 months from now. And about 2.5 or 3 months from now is when we're going to order materials. This material escalation clause, I've identified 4 areas of the job: lumber, this, that, and the other. And if you, I'll pause there as I'm going through batting practice here. But if you look at that thread of different people that had material clauses, the NHB, somebody linked to the NHB's version of it, and I really liked it from a standpoint of it actually identifies, 4 or 5 different line items. Here's the current price of what the cost is, and it gets just very clear, open, transparent, and just right there for people to see. Okay, and you need to just be very deliberate and clear and say, I hope we don't need to use this material clause, but if when we go and order the lumber package, it's greater than a 5% difference than what we have here in the contract, we're not going to, and you can go a couple different ways, we're not going to add our markup to it, but we do need to do a change order and charge you for the difference between what we're signing the contract and what the actual cost is. And it's a bummer, and we don't want to do it, but it's just the reality of the remodeling industry in the year of 2021. And then you get very clear. Do you have any questions about that? Do you have any concerns about that? Cool. I want us both to initial this. And you make sure there's some big fat initials next to that. What you're hearing me say is to be very clear and very deliberate. Stop saying that you need to get this clause in your contract. Stop signing projects that you're going to build in 4 months. That's too much risk. I don't want you to have that much risk. When we look at our numbers and we say we need to be at a 1.40 markup in order to pay our overhead expenses and get our net profit, but then we lose out on $3,500 of gross profit on that project, well, actually, your markup needs to be higher now because you just lost out on gross profit dollars. We got to take this seriously. You got to get it in place. You got to protect your gross profit, and you need to be very clear and deliberate and not eat those extra costs. Any questions? Sorry. But I want to be passionate about it because I don't want you guys losing that. Somebody just said we're working on this today, actually. Who said that? Good. And then Bailey posted the C material. There's some good examples right there that you can find. Who said Heather Francis? Good. You're working on it today. Heather, consider maybe on some of your recent. By the way, if you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, you can see how to make it so that we can see your face pop up. But consider even some of the ones you've recently signed. Consider if it's worth going back to them and say, something that we missed that we wanted to get in front of here, and we apologize we didn't do this when we signed 2 weeks ago. But here, consider doing that, or you're going to just pay the price of not having this in place 6 months ago. Deal with it and make sure going forward you have it in place. Jim said, do you need to show the whole bill of material from your takeoff? What benchmark are you leaning against? The example that that was posted in the NHB, the benchmark is not so much a benchmark. The benchmark should be, here's what I was quoted. Here's what I was actually quoted from the lumberyard. The NHB one says specified building material, so you list it out. Current price per unit, and here's the unit of measurement. Here's the date, and here's the supplier. So Jim, you get very clear with just, here's our current price per unit for 2x4, for OSB, for this, and for that. Find the 5 or 6 most risky things that are probably going to take up 80, 90% of any big change, right? Identify that, put the current price in there, unit of measure. So whatever it is that day, plug that in there with that supplier. And then when it comes time to order, and it was $2 per, and now it's $2.50 per, we can go back and say, okay, here's what it was, here's what it is today, here's what the difference is, and here's the change order for that. Or you can be a wuss and not do that and take the hit yourself. I don't like that. We don't need to do that. There's nothing you're doing wrong by doing this. This is professional business stuff. I wish we weren't having to do it, right? It'd be nice if we didn't have to deal with this, but we have to deal with it. Okay. That's all I got to say about that. Is anybody going to click the fancy link, whether you're watching this on YouTube, LinkedIn, whether you're watching this on Facebook? If you click that little link that you're going to see in the comments, it'll pop up some things, and I can click a button, and boom, you're going to be right here on the Remodelers on the Rise live show, and we're going to be talking, and I'm going to answer your questions. It's going to be so much fun. Can one person do that today? I sure hope so. By the way, Remodelers Community, if you go to remodelerscommunity.com, if you're listening to this on the podcast or elsewhere, if you're not a member of that, please be a member of that. And today we hit 1,000 members in there. Oh, so wonderful. It is stinking an amazing, wonderful, generous group. So if you're not part of that, please do. All right, next up. Next thing I was going to chat about here is something that's been coming up in coaching lately on a variety of calls, is to look at a process that's not working very well, or a system in your business. And step number one, identify the bottleneck. Identify the bottleneck. Is it you? Is it somebody else? Is it your outsourced designer? Is it a trade partner? Is it your estimator? You know, when you look at a certain system that's kind of clunky and not working well, identify the bottleneck. Step number one. And then step number two, ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to try? What are you going to implement? What are you going to change? What are you going to test to try to smooth it out? This concept can be applied to 472 different potential challenges in a remodeling business. But I just wanted to kind of step back for a second. When you think, if I asked you and really pinned you down to say, give me one problem in your remodeling business right now. Well, it's this. Well, it's that. All right, now identify the bottleneck, identify the problem. What's the root of it? Let's get real clear with what the problem is, because that's 80% of the battle. And then step two, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to change about it? I don't know where that takes you in your mind, but hopefully just that reminder and that little push will make you think of something. In my business recently, a couple of weeks ago, Bailey's texting me. She says, call out people you see are watching by name and ask them if they want to join. Well, Jim's there and Heather's there. So come on, people. Click that link. Do your hair, make yourself all, Zoom, StreamYard appropriate, and then let's have some fun. This came up, it was about a week and a half ago. It came up, week and a half was a very specific date. A week or two ago. And a lot of times, if I really got my inbox under control, I'll have 20, 30 emails in there. And a lot of times by the end of the day, I end with like 60 or 70 because I'm on calls all day. And sometimes I, beat it back. Other times I don't. I've got a lot of reminders popping up, different things. And oftentimes, once the kids are in bed, that 9 o'clock hour, my wife and I are usually in bed. She's usually watching some stuff. I'm usually cranking through some emails and catching up on that. And then we'll watch a show or something. And I thought to myself a couple weeks ago, is this just how it's always going to be? Is this how your inbox is always going to be? Like literally you always end the day with 60 or 70 and like it's a problem. Like it'd be nice not to have to deal with this so much. How can you reduce the noise? So identify the problem. And then I got to step two of like, what are you going to do about it? Well, wouldn't you know, I'm not sending as much reminders, follow up then as a program I use. I'm not doing that as much. I'm not snoozing as much emails of going, oh yeah, I need to deal with that. Snooze that until later tonight. When things are coming in, I'm just dealing with them right then and there and kicking it back. I'm letting people know that, hey, why don't we talk about this at our next meeting instead of getting into a back and forth? I'm trying to solve the problem of too much email by doing something about it. So that's an example of this. Identify it, identify the problem, the bottleneck, and then think about what are you going to do about it? Hopefully that helps somebody. Okay. Rock and roll. All right, next one up. Jim, you said estimating. If you click the link that you'll see above, if you want to come on live and talk about estimating, we can do it, man. Today's a live show. If not, I'm just going to keep coming with topics. The next topic I have on here, it says batting practice. 29 reps is better than 6. 29 reps is better than 6. I talked about the material escalation clause, how you communicate that to the homeowner, why you have to do it, what's going on in our industry. If you never practice how to say those words, and the only time that you say those words is when it's live and happening in front of a client, you might do okay. But if you're driving around in your vehicle, if you are sitting in front of a mirror, if you're sitting in your office, if you actually practice that when you're not live and up to bat, and you get some reps in and you practice how you want to say, I kind of liked how that sounded. That didn't come out correct. That was way too long of an explanation. And you just start to practice it. It's called batting practice. by the time that you get in front of a client, the way that you say it and the confidence in which you say it and how cleaned up your message is going to be so much stronger than if you only do it when you're in front of them. This is something called batting practice. A lot of people call it role playing. I don't like that. I call it batting practice. So, this concept of you need to explain how you charge for design and development. Well, guess what? If you only do that when you're talking to a prospect, you're going to do that 4 times, 7 times, 9 times this month. If you actually do some batting practice with somebody else in the office, with a spouse, with another employee, by yourself in the car, and you get 42 times this month where you've practiced, we charge for design and project development. This is how we work. Boom, 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 boom. You are going to be so much better and stronger at it. So I wanted to remind you, more awkward batting practice. Lean into the awkward, more awkward batting practice. 29 reps is better than 6. I'll add one more thing to that, since none of you are clicking that link to come join me live. Rude dudes and dudettes. But I'll carry the show. It's fine. About 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I went out to Philadelphia to a seminar, workshop called Heroic Public Speaking, Michael and Amy Port. And I like to fancy myself as a pretty good public speaker. I really enjoy doing it. You put me in front of a room. It's pretty fun. I enjoy it. Feel like I'm decent at it. And I went out there like, I'll go to this conference. Like I might learn a thing or two about public speaking. And I got into that room and I realized, oh, Kyle, you've been winging it. You've been thinking you're pretty good. Dude, there's like 5 more levels of public speaking excellence that are way beyond where you're at now, my buddy. I didn't say all those words to myself, but that's kind of what I was thinking. And I realized, one of the big things I realized is, how do you craft a story? How do you practice that? How do you craft how you explain your process to a client? How do you craft how you explain that material escalation clause? And then a huge thing is rehearse. Rehearse is what Heroic Public Speaking talks about. Memorize it, get it down pat, work on your inflections, work on how you explain it, where your pauses are. There's some very key phrases and things that you say consistently in your business. And if you really locked it down and became incredibly professional at it, you're going to be more effective and successful with it. Batting practice, more batting practice. Okay. Next. Phrases and things. Jimbo's here. Hey. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Batting practice, huh?
Batting practice. I'm a little passionate. Say, well, this is fun. This is what I was hoping was going to happen, is somebody was going to dial in.
So I'm a terrible public speaker.
Practice, man. Practice makes perfect, right?
Well, that's why I'm here.
Okay. So what's your question, or what do you want to cover today?
I just wanted to jump in on you. You seem like you're all alone out here in the world.
Yes. I was very lonely.
So just doing my part to keep it fresh.
And to support. You always support very well with your comments, and it's very encouraging, and I appreciate that. I just have my Square Construction T-shirt that you've sent me that I wear. And
wear it in good health.
I appreciate the support. If you were to, you wrote estimating earlier in a comment. What was that about?
So I'm trying to figure out the best ways for speed and accuracy. I feel that those two things give customers great confidence if you are able to get them numbers quickly, and that you are able to honor those budgets after you've thrown that on the table. Mm-hmm. I feel that when we're in the budget stage, not having a ton of empirical data, because we're such a new company, that we are gun shy to give those budget numbers to get into the area where we can ask for that 2% of the low end budget range to go into a full blown estimate. So we're gun shy on that.
Gotcha. Okay, so what I'm hearing there is a couple things I heard there, and we'll do a little batting practice on it. One is, and can anybody give him some likes? I mean, this guy's got some courage to actually dial in, unlike the rest of you who are like, well, I could click, but I don't. Kyle yells a lot, and I don't know if it's going to be fun or not. He's going to put me on the spot. I mean, give him a little likes or a little comment of going, thanks, Jim, for stepping up.
Well, the heartbeat was definitely on that click. The heartbeat was
Isn't
going.
It weird? I know exactly what you're talking. Oh, and Bailey gave you this, and Rob gave you this. It is weird. Like it's actually fairly. It doesn't happen to me nearly as much anymore, but that is a real thing. When you click that live button, it's like, oh crap. What if things go wrong? What if But you're with a friend. It's all good.
So I got anything
what you're talking about there. No, you're good. It's solid. What you're talking about there is how important it is when you're charging for design and project development. We need to give them a ballpark range, and that ballpark range, being fairly accurate with that and having a realistic range is really important. If you're sitting there thinking this project's going to be $80,000 all day, and then you don't have the guts to say this project's going to range anywhere from $75,000 to $95,000, and then zip your lips and let them respond. Oftentimes, right then and there, we go, well, this project's going to range anywhere from $60,000, maybe up to $80,000. Now we've lowered it down to $60,000, and there's going to be friction because when we put it together, it's going to be $80,000. Right. So that's one thing related to it is be very careful when you do give that range. Secondly, make that range big. The bigger we make that range, the more people go, well, that's a big range. Yes, it is. And the reason it's a big range is because there are so many decisions that we need to make during design and project development that could swing this to the lower end or more likely up towards the higher end. And it's going to be, that's part of why when people say, wow, that's a big range, they're walking right into our approach of that's why we do design and development, because there's hundreds of decisions that we need to make. Okay. So that's another thing, bigger range. And yes, be careful of the range. And you have a bit of a disadvantage where you haven't had 30, 40, 50, 60 projects of the size and scope that you're doing, where you can go back and say, well, we did a project like this, last month and 3 months ago and 6 months ago. So you're at a little bit of a disadvantage there. When you don't know what the number is, it's okay to say, you know what, I need to kind of just run some numbers and think through this a little bit before I give you the ballpark range. That's okay. I'd rather you do that than just throw out a number and it's just a wild guess.
Right.
Okay. So that's one thing. Now that can be you going back to your car and running some numbers. We don't want to add, speaking of what you said, we don't want to have a lot of time wasted in between it. You might just kind of run some numbers real briefly, or, I want to run some numbers. I want to crunch this with so-and-so in our office. Can we set up a Zoom call for tomorrow? We'll run some numbers and we'll give you kind of a ballpark range, and we can also talk about what our next steps look like. Okay. That takes some of the pressure off, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
The more experience you have, the more I do want you to, once you have a clear picture in your head of the project, other projects that are similar in size and scope, I want you to get that range out there and move up the moment of truth so that, we have that moment of truth and we can talk about it in either, sayonara or, talk about the next steps.
Gotcha.
Is that how, what comes to your mind as I was giving some of that feedback?
So since we're dealing with multi-trade jobs, we're taking the time to actually bring our trade partners out and walk them through so that we're trying to be as accurate as possible. But we're at the same time trying not to burn out guys to bring them to every job.
When are you bringing them in? What part of the process?
So after we've gotten that know, like, and trust down, at least that we've established some rapport with the client, then we say, hey, okay, to get to the next stage of getting you a hard estimate, we're going to bring out our trade partners so that they can review the scope, review the job on site, and give us back estimated numbers so that we can put them in our big number. So we're having that's a delay because now we've got to try to squeeze.
So pause there. At that point, have I given you a check for design and development or not?
Again, we're not lock solid on that yet because we are so new. So we're trying it and then we're pulling back from it.
Okay. So what I would encourage, what I would say is, I think even with whether it's a limited experience or just a few projects under your belt, I think oftentimes when you are at that meeting and you guys have talked about the scope of the project, you have numbers in your head of where this project's going to come in at.
Right.
And it might be wise to just start to get that out in the open and say, based on what I'm seeing here, other projects of similar size and scope, this project's going to range from $80,000 to $120,000. And let's get
reverse, right? 20 to 8, 120 to
yeah, even better. 120,000 to 80,000 because they're going to hear that 120. And get that out there, because I think you guys aren't giving yourself enough credit. You can give a range.
Okay.
Most of the time, the majority of the time, you can give a range. That range needs to get out there, because what you're doing is you're totally undercutting the value of design and development by getting the trades out. One, yes, you're getting your trade partners out, and you don't have any skin in the game from the client, so your closing percentage is going to be a lot less. And your trade partners are going to be like, dude, I've been out here 10 times. We only got 3 of these. Like, this ain't working. So we need to figure out how to get a range out there and then say, yes, that's a big range. Now, let me tell you about our next step in the process. We do full design and project development. Boom, boom, boom. As part of that, we have a trade day where one of the mornings of a day, we have all of our key trades come in, boom, boom, boom. And careful with using estimate. At that time, we're able to get a lot firmer, clearer numbers from that, so that we can really start to hone that range down. We present to you this design. Here's some of the designs that we do. Here's some of the 3D designs, and really build the value of everything that goes into it. If you take all of the trade partner work and all of the detail work and you move that before they pay for you, you've just squashed some of the value of design and development. And the only reason you're doing that is because you guys aren't courageous enough quite yet to just get out the range. I'm kind of off this whole, we don't have enough experience to give a range yet. Now I'm squashing that. We got to get it out there. You have to, because otherwise, you're just killing the value of design and development and all the work that goes into there. And I think you guys have a range. Maybe you need to run a few numbers, but again, big range, and then sell them on the next step, which is, we charge 2% of the low end of the budget range. And what you get for that is boom, 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 and build up the value of that.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Makes sense. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what's the status of things? And for people that know, like you guys have done remodeling work, and then your son is an architect or a designer. Correct. He's kind of coming aboard. Another son?
Yes, sir. Another
son is kind of getting involved, and then you're getting involved. So you guys are working on getting this thing up and going. What's working so far?
Everything is just like sputtering. It really is. Production's good on one day. And then the next day, it's nothing but problems.
Okay.
We had a trim carpenter nail like 9 nails in a piece of Romex.
I don't know enough about building to know that to know exactly what that means, but it sounds like a problem.
Nails and wires going through each other aren't a good mix. So we're just trying to get out there. Like I say, we're working on every system of the business.
Yeah.
And just trying to do a little better every day, 1%.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I think if you guys can really lock down the sales process and get, and you're flirting with it right now, right? You're kind of doing it, but your confidence isn't quite there. If you guys can figure out, okay, we meet with somebody, we've got an opportunity, we review this project, and based on our experience and what we're seeing here, your project's going to range from here to here. And then you're not selling a $100,000 project. All you're selling is a 2% design and development. Just focus on that step. Once you guys start getting a check before you've put hardly any work in, and then you've got some skin in the game, and you start to go through design and development, that's going to be a game changer. Your confidence is going to go from 20% in that process up to 80% of going, right, they're paying us for this. Look at all this work we do in the 3D design and all the details, and we're putting all this effort in up front so that the project, before a hammer even hits the job site, all of the details are in here. All of the selections are made. That makes the project go so much smoother, et cetera. And it also starts to squash some of the challenge you're having of, if trade partners are coming in and viewing everything, yes, that's going to wear them out. They're stinking busy. So when we get them out there, we need to have some more confidence that this project's going forward. And that check for design and development is a huge confidence, aspect of it.
Does anybody kick back to their trade partners for coming out? Do they give them Wawa or like a gift card to somewhere to?
Oh, Wawa! You guys and your Wawa out east.
I can't escape my Delco-isms.
Yes. You can go into Wawa and you can choose between 47 different flavors of coffee. Yeah, that's exactly what we need in our lives. Is 47 choices to overwhelm us even more. Thanks, Wawa.
It's 100% Colombian or nothing.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how it works. I remember going in there and there being a bunch of, it was good coffee. Sometimes, to me, it's a little bit of, I need to nurture that relationship. If I'm starting to get a feel for like, he's not even coming out anymore when I'm calling him, like that's a problem. And I need to sit down and kind of say, look, we're transitioning our sales process a bit. So we got a little skin in the game from the client. I know we've kind of struck and, swung and missed on a few of these, but it would be wonderful if you could continue to help us with it. And yeah, maybe, it's almost on a one-to-one basis. Some of those trade partners understand the game, understand it, and they're happy to do it. But yeah, if we're feeling like we're losing a little bit of that relationship and some of their confidence in us, it's maybe a gift card, but more than that, just really giving them insight into what you're up to, what you're trying to do, saying, I apologize for wasting your time. That's why I'm picking up breakfast today, but we're continuing to hone this, and we're working on this, and it should improve. So tackle that on kind of a one-to-one basis. It's very rare that I see remodelers kind of paying a trip charge or something to trade partners because, one, they're protecting their time by charging for design and development, and two, the relationship is so much bigger than that. Sure. That trade partner is not interested in that $75. That trade partner is interested in that $7,500 plumbing project, and they know that you pay well, that you're closing at a high percentage, and they want your work.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Gotcha.
All right, man. It's the end of the show. It's 12:32. I'm hungry and need lunch. I very much appreciate you calling in, my friend.
I greatly appreciate all your time and giving us a lot of free content. I greatly appreciate it.
And way to be brave. So that same braveness, we'll close it like this. That same braveness that it took to push that button and pop up on the screen with your boy Kyle is the same braveness we need with charging for design and development. And we just got to put it out there and take a risk.
Yes, sir.
Woo! That was a good conclusion. All right, my man.
Loving it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle.